you sign my paychecks, buddy, you ain't no mystic sage. Your signature ain't worth the ink you leave upon the page. But you will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're heading towards the morning, and you can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Whoa, 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 whoa. Looking down your nose at me, you think you're something else. Must think I'm the dog that drools each time you ring the bell. Well, I am not your servant of its most unholy kind. I am just a messenger here to free your minds. But you will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're headed towards the morning. You can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Oh, 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 oh. One day soon the sun will rise upon this human race. We'll see all the beauty that surrounds us in this place. It's not from all the things you buy with money you have earned. It's how you treat the people with the love that you have learned. You will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're headed towards the morning. You can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Oh, 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 oh. Intentional, you high-class social climbers play your games. Meet the man that works the clock from 9 to 5 each day. Though you sign my paychecks, buddy, you ain't no mystic sage. Your signature ain't worth the ink you leave upon the page. You will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're heading towards the morning, and you can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Whoa, messenger here to free your minds. You will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're headed towards the morning. You can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Oh, 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 oh. One day soon the sun will rise upon this human race. We'll see all the beauty that surrounds us in this place. It's not from all the things you buy with money you have earned. It's how you treat the people with the love that you have learned. You will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're headed towards the morning. You can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Oh, 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 oh.
Well, all right, everybody. So we're going to try something a little bit different today, and I hope to God that it works. I'm not entirely sure that it will, but what you're looking at right now is Streamlabs OBS, which is the broadcasting software that I'm usually staring at while I'm talking to you guys. I'm using screen capture. Hey, Adudu, how are you, my friend? Welcome to the stream. I am using an entire screen capture today. And I'm hoping that this is going to work out. So basically what this is and how this works is I'm using a capture method that actually shows my entire display. So it's not just a window capture like I normally use. The problem with this, because of the type of computer I use a gaming laptop. You know, that's my only computer. It's a fairly powerful machine, you know. And can you hear me okay, by the way? Because this is a completely new setup. Is my voice coming through all right? It's like I tried doing some kind of test before this. Okay, so it does seem to be working. Okay, so you're not going to be able to see me today. So like I said, I have a pretty, you know, my computer's got pretty good stats, but the problem with a laptop is you it's like you can't run the integrated graphics and the graphics processor in unison. So normally I'm running Streamlabs and all my good stuff through my graphics processor. But in order to do a screen capture, you have to use the integrated graphics card, which is hooked directly to the computer's CPU. So, problem with that is it's really taxing on my CPU because I don't have my graphics card to help out in this case. So we're going to see if this works, because a lot of my plugins are actually quite graphics intensive. So we'll see if it explodes everything or not. I'm not sure. So we're going to see what happens. But the good news is is you will be able to see everything. So you're going to be able to see the plugins that I'm using all the time on the stream that you guys never ever get to see because those are rendered on a different card than I normally stream with. So there's also, you'll notice there's no video capture of me. I'm trying to give my CPU all of the resources that it can. So I have everything shut off that's not absolutely necessary. So anyway, I thought it would be cool to kind of go back where this stream started, working on C. And we're going to do like a proper mixing session for it. So let's see. Screen capture, be careful what you show on screen, like personal information, stuff like that. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you for the reminder, but I've got this set up so that yeah, the only thing that you guys will be able to see is Streamlabs, which doesn't have any personal information or anything. And traction here. So anyway, yes, that's one of the reasons I don't like using screen capture, but that is the only way to be able to show my plugins. So and that it's just so much more interesting when you can actually see all of the cool toys that I work with that you guys have not been able to see before. So let's get into it. All right, so we're looking at the. I did a little bit of work ahead of time, and I got everything grouped into submix folders. So I've got all of my vocals grouped together, and they're all under one fader here. And then I've got my backing track, which is all of the music. That's all grouped under one fader. And then I have the drums. I have them grouped under one fader. And then the solo portion, I have that grouped under one fader as well. So I think these guys here, this is some of the last work that we did, and I didn't label these, unfortunately, but I think those are going to need to be moved up to this submix. Anyway, we'll find out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and go track by track here, and we're going to get a good mono mix first. I always like to start with a good mono mix with no effects of any kind. So we're not going to have reverb on here, no compression. We're not going to do any stereo panning of any kind. It's literally just going to be working with the volume faders on these tracks is all that we're going to be doing right now. And that will we're going to balance all of the instruments so that we get a good mono mix on the backing track, and then we'll move on to the vocals, and then we'll start working on really shaping the sound from there. So let's go ahead and mute the entire submix folder for the vocals, so those aren't even going to be in play right now. And let's go ahead and start playback of the backing track. It's going to sound worse than it's ever sounded before. You have not heard it like this before. Nothing's balanced at all. All of the faders are set to 0 right now. All of the stereo panning is set to 0 right now. And let's see where we're at. It's been a long time since I've listened to this. So let's see what's up. Let's go ahead and play it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what we're doing right now is we're listening for obvious, there's too much of this or there's too little of that. So that's kind of where we're going to start on the first playthrough. And then we'll go through and we'll actually start muting and soloing tracks and balancing them against each other. This brings back memories. Yeah, I've got the vocals muted on purpose for right now. Okay, so already, probably the first thing that I notice, of course it's all kind of out of balance, but the first thing that's really striking me is I can't hear the bass very well. So we're going to not turn the bass up, but we're going to turn other elements down. You always want to subtract before adding anything. That helps us maintain what's called headroom. If you get everything, if your first inclination is to turn the bass up, well, you're eliminating some of your headroom. It's like, the more you turn things up, the more you have to turn other things up, and eventually you're going to reach a point where you can't turn anything up anymore. So typically what you want to do is you want to work backwards. You want to make other things more quiet before boosting others. So, real quick, I want to see what this track that I have muted here is. I think, okay, this is one of my guide-in tracks. This one right here. This one that says Dorothy on it. Okay, yeah, because I re-recorded that. I remember that. And then this one, I don't know what it is, so I'm gonna solo it. Okay, so I need to have my voiceover always on solo isolate, so that it's always available when I have other things soloed. Alright. God, that guitar rules. Okay, so I think what this was this was my like final go on recording that overdriven rhythm on Dorothy. So I'm gonna call this Dorothy Final. So I can only assume that this is a Dorothy guide track. Let me mute this and listen. Solo it and listen to it real quick. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So I'm gonna say, this is Dorothy. Whoops, I accidentally hit caps lock. Guide track. All right, so let me put that above. So thumper, and then track 12. This is an unused. This is an unused take. And I know that this is another guide track as well, so let's go ahead and mute that. Thought I had this all sorted out better, but apparently not. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this all the way down to the bottom of the stack. And this one, let me have a quick listen to it and see what it is, just to be sure. Yeah, it's essentially the exact same thing. So take this one down here as well, and I'm actually going to hold on. They need to be muted. No, don't select them all. Unselect these two tracks right here. They're muted. So I actually want to. Let's see, tracks 17 and 18, I want to disable and hide those two tracks so they do not exist as far as our mixing session is concerned. Okay, onwards and upwards. And that gives us a little more room to work with here.
4.
And that Dorothy guide track needs to be muted. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And there's the strat. Okay, so let's go ahead and dial in our rhythm section. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to solo the drums. Whoops. And solo the bass. I'm going to pull up the master fader for the backing track. I'll go ahead and pull it back up to 0. Yeah, so see, so on their own, they seem pretty good. So let's go ahead and the next thing that we're going to go ahead and mix in here is going to be the finger picking rhythm on Straterpillar. So the way that I like to do, the way that I like to mix things in is I pull the fader on the track that I'm going to bring in. I pull it all the way down. I solo it along with what I'm going to be mixing it to. And then I literally, I close my eyes, and while the other elements are playing, close my eyes, and I'm going to start pulling the fader up until I've got what feels like a good balance to me. because as the saying goes, you hear a lot with your eyes. So when I'm doing stuff like this, I do a lot of it with my eyes closed, so I'm not looking at numbers. You know, I'm just listening to it and feeling it. Okay, so we ended up right around -7 decibels for that guitar. Okay, so we're going to take the Dorothy final track and we're going to pull the fader all the way down. We're going to solo it along with everything else. And then we're going to start adding it in with our eyes closed. Okay, and that ends up right around -7.5 decibels. So what we're doing, what I'm listening for is when I'm bringing up a volume fader, I want it to come in just to the point where I can clearly make it out, but I can also make out all of the other elements. You know, if I'm really listening for it. Of course, the clarity is not going to be the same as if we already had everything in stereo, but trust me, starting your mix out in mono will always make a better stereo mix. Because if you can hear all of the elements nicely in mono, just think about how much better you'll hear them in stereo. So if you can hear it all good in mono, when you start pushing things to the left and the right, it's going to sound even better, and there's going to be even more separation between those elements. So always start a mix in mono. So now a way that we can test that is once we start having everything kind of getting up to the volumes that we want it to be at, we can start then muting some of those elements that we already mixed in and make sure that when we mute it, we're missing something. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to play it again, and I'm going to mute that finger picking rhythm that I did on Straterpillar, and we're going to listen to make sure that when that's muted, we miss it. Because if we don't miss it, well, that means that something's wrong with the mix. So let's go ahead and see if we miss it. I miss it, but I don't miss it enough. So that means Dorothy needs to come down just a little bit. Just like maybe a decibel or two. So again, with my eyes closed. Okay, now let's mute Straterpillar again. Let's go to a quieter part of the song. Nah, Dorothy needs to come down a little bit more even. Alright, let's mute Straterpillar. Yeah, that's a huge difference there. Okay, now let's move into the louder part of the song and do the same thing. We're going to mute Straterpillar. And so when you start getting into dynamics issues like that, and by dynamics I mean you got the softer part of the song and then you got the louder part of the song, and you've got instruments that start to take over, and really start to push the quieter instruments to the background, well, that's where compressors come in handy. And you'll finally be able to see me work with my compressors here in just a few minutes, actually. But we're definitely going to need to put some compression on Straterpillar to really bring him out in the mix when it starts to get louder. So yeah, that's going to be awesome. So those are the main musical elements. That's the rhythm section, and that's both main guitars. So let's go ahead and start the track over, and let's maybe give it a listen about halfway through. I'll jump around and whatnot, and we'll just kind of see where we sit and make sure that the levels kind of seem natural. So let's go. Save this so far. And I know it's a bit quiet right now, but we'll fix that as time goes by as well. So that's a much better balance now. And you'll notice that nothing got turned up. Nothing got turned up. Stuff got turned down. Yeah, and we'll really get the bass and the drums punchy with compressors as well. Everything will have its own compressor that works in a different way. Okay, I think that this is a very good, easy to hear everything rough mix of the main instruments. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix in the solo. So I'm going to pull the master fader down for the solo. And now we'll bring it in. Okay, now another thing that's awesome about doing these submix groupings, like you'll notice that I have the solo in its own submix under the backing track submix, is that we can then go in and we can mix elements to each other, and then with the master fader then we can bring that new submix into the main mix. So that's what we're going to do here. Is I'm actually going to now re-mute everything. Actually, let me unsolo everything first, and then we're just going to solo the solo elements. Okay, so everything's back in, and now I'm just going to solo the pieces of the solo. Solo the pieces of the solo. So let's go ahead and bring the volume back up on that, and we're going to match these guitars to each other now. So let's bring this one all the way down, and then this one all the way down. All right, so there's the low guitar. Let's mix in the high guitar. Okay, now that little, the twangly bits at the end, I know that I doubled that so that we can really emphasize that. So I'm going to bring that up to an acceptable volume as well. So let's try that again. That needs to be just a little bit louder, so we'll come up to like -3 decibels. Nice. Okay, so let's go ahead and unsolo those now. Okay, and then we'll fit them in with the rest of the mix here. So we want that one running, we want that one running, that one running, we want the entire drum submix running. Okay, now we'll set the overall volume in relation to everything else of this solo submix. Unsolo? Unsolo is just when you click solo again, and it brings it out of solo, so it brings the rest of the mix back in. There's a couple of different solo modes you can use. There's just normal solo, and that's what most tracks are going to have on them, so you can solo them or unsolo them. But submixes, they have a couple other options where if you right click it, you can actually solo isolate it, and that means that will always play through even if other things are soloed, and that's really helpful if you've got an effect sitting on like a submix bus. If you just solo one of the individual tracks, well, you won't hear what's running through the submix bus, so you want to keep that in solo isolate mode, so that anytime you solo something in the I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but anytime you solo or unsolo something in the submix, it won't affect the main master bus for that mix. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm probably doing a horrible job at explaining it. But unsolo means to just bring it out of solo so that it's then part of the mix again. Alright, so let's hear this. Alright, I want to hear it. I want to hear the solo hit again. I want to feel it. Dude, this song rocks. It's been so long since I've listened to it. Perfect. I think that sounds great. I think this is a good mix. A good mono mix. It's a good place to start. It's a good place to start. We're far from finished. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to mute the entire backing track. So I'm going to hit mute on that so that we don't hear any of these submixes that are grouped under the backing track submix. And now we're just going to work on the vocals. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to match the two leads to each other. So I am going to mute. Well, no, actually, okay. I'm gonna solo. I'm gonna solo both of the leads, and then my vocal submix. I need to put that into solo isolate. All right. So now basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna balance the double track between the two lead vocals.
Come step down from your heights and bring your poor eyes to focus on what matters in life.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull one of those vocals all the way down. And then I'm slowly going to start adding it in with my eyes closed until I get the right double track effect on it.
And everyone needs to stand up right now.
We just want a little bit of modulation.
This religion of spite. Just one or two words of wisdom could turn on the light.
Okay, I think that's pretty good.
But I will not forget the lies they told, and I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds until we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lies. Now I bet you will find
Maybe a little quieter on the double track.
Look at all of these protest marches.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and unsolo those now. So they're back in the mix with the others. So let's go ahead and listen to it with the harmony vocals in as well.
And bring your poor eyes to focus on
wherever those come in
what
at. Okay, so they'll come in
matters
right
life.
here.
Whoa. And everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion of spite.
Okay, so now since those are just doubled to each other, I'm going to solo the two harmony vocals. And I'm going to do the same thing that I did to the leads. I'm going to pull the fader all the way out on one of them. And I'm going to close my eyes and add it back in until I get a good double effect. Yeah, I think that sounds good. Yeah, and that comes out to, about -5 decibels, which is kind of what I anticipated. Let's unsolo those, and then let's hear them in context to each other.
Will not forget the lies they told, and I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds until we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lies. Now I bet you will find.
Okay, so the harmony vocals, I want to keep them with the same balance that they have now, but I want to bring them down in relation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring them both down by 3 decibels. So what do we got? We got -4.8 decibels here, so we'll go -7.8 decibels. Okay, so let's go ahead and listen to that.
See what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lies. Now I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war.
Okay, let's bring the music back in.
It's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings.
Okay, so I've got the fader all the way down on the music. I'm going to bring the music back up until it seems like it's at a good balance with the vocals.
Well, I could be the friend you never had. Or I could be the end to your days gone bad. No one will lend a helping hand until they can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. I bet you will find a better life.
Okay, so let's bring those harmonies up. You know what? Let's start compressing. We're at the stage where we can start compressing. So everybody hold on to your hats, because you're about to see the magic that I love weaving with my compressors. Okay, so the first thing that I am going to do is I want to compress our main lead vocal. So that's going to be the one that we have at 0 decibels. So let's go ahead and fit. We're going to start with a Fairchild 660. So you should be able to see that. You can see that now, can't you, Adudu? You see that little guy I'm dragging around right there? Is it working? I'm going to be like crushed if... Ah, nice. Yee-hee! Yeah, now you can see my stuff. All right, so what this is a replica of a Fairchild 660 compressor from the mid-60s. This is made by a guy who calls himself Analog Obsession. I love him. He's on Patreon. He's 100% free. His plugins are all free. His plugins, in a lot of ways, are just as good as any of the ones that you pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for. I really like using the Waves Abbey Road suite, but Analog Obsessions, his version of the 660 compressor is far and away superior. It sounds way better than what Waves came up with. And I hate to say that because I love Waves. They make great products, but so does Analog Obsession. He's amazing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set the input attenuation. This is how I always start out working with a Fairchild, is I'm going to bring the input attenuation all the way down. Okay, I'm going to bring that all the way down. The DC threshold, what this does is this basically controls what's called the knee of our compressor. Knee, like the joint in your leg, the knee, Knee, to either a soft or a hard knee. That basically says how aggressive the compressor is going to work. So I always like to start off with a very soft knee. I just think of this as I don't use any of the in-between stages on this dial. I either call it all the way on or all the way off. So I either have it in compressor mode or in limit mode. So a limiter is an extremely aggressive compressor, which chops off anything that goes above the threshold. That's great on like an actual output bus if you want to make sure that you're restricting sound from going above a certain level. But when we want a natural sounding compression, I like to just leave it all the way over to the left here as a compressor as opposed to a limiter. What this here is, this is the release dial. This tells the compressor how fast to release the sound once it's dropped below the threshold that you've set. So for vocals, you generally want it to be on 2 or 3. It's a little bit of a more slow release which again is more it's more applicable to vocals. This is also my main drum compressor, and if you're using it for drums, we always leave it on 1. That is the classic Beatles crunchy drum compressor setting. So when I'm doing drums, I always leave that set on 1. But for vocals, I'll usually start it on 3, and if it seems like it's too slow of a release, then I'll back it off to 2, and that usually gets it just fine. So the AC threshold right here, this is where we're actually going to be dialing in how much compression that we're going to get out of the compressor. And we're not going to start dialing that in until we actually have audio going through it. So I am going to solo just the track that we're going to be compressing. And what I like to do for the main lead vocal is I like to set the compressor based on the softest part of the vocal. So what I'm going to be looking for is, you see this needle right here? That needle, the more to the left it jumps, the more it's compressing the signal. So what we're looking for is in the softest part of the song. I don't want it compressing more than like half to maybe -1 decibel. I don't want it squishing it too much. So what's going to happen is it's going to allow the soft parts of the vocal to come through very nicely. But as I start to push, it'll start reducing the volume. It'll instantaneously start pushing the volume down, and it makes it more smooth. So we're going to use a very light compression on this one, but when we move to compressing the doubled vocal, then we're going to compress the hell out of it. We call that the excite track, and I'll explain that to you in just a moment. I hope this is all interesting. I love this stuff. I geek out over it constantly. So let's go ahead and pop this guy open again, and we're going to go ahead and watch as we listen. So we can look at the waveform here, and we can see kind of my softest vocal is probably going to be like right in here. So we're just going to go ahead and watch the needle on the compressor as we move through this soft section. Move it up here. And then I'll start dialing in compression as we need to.
Down from your rainbow.
Okay, so I'm going to start dialing some compression in now.
And bring your poor eyes to focus on.
Yeah, it's really quiet, so it's going to take a lot of compression. I'm going to have to really pull this dial over. Okay, you saw the needle just kind of twitch there just a little bit. So what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to release some of the input attenuation so that the actual input volume going into the compressor makes up for the fact that it's not loud enough, even with the compressor on its maximum setting right now. It's still not loud enough to get the amount of compression that I want, so I have to feed it a little bit more of a hot signal. So that's what we're going to do with this dial. As that comes up, it'll raise the volume inside the compressor. We're not going to hear a difference in volume at this point. It's just the signal that I'm feeding to the compressor itself to work with.
Oh, come step down from your rainbow.
Okay, now you can see that the needle's twitching up to about 1.
Down from your high.
That's about perfect. Actually, I'm going to back it off just like a notch.
Bring your poor eyes to focus on what matters in life. Whoa.
Yeah. That's fine.
And everyone needs to stand.
So now you'll see as I start increasing the volume of my voice and putting more power from my voice into it, you'll see that when the compressor engages, it's compressing more and more. It's compensating for that extra volume.
But I will not forget the lies they told. And I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds? until we can see.
Yeah, so that's perfect. So that means, so basically what this is doing is this is changing the relationship between the soft sounds and the loud sounds. So it's decreasing what's called the dynamic range of the volume. So what that will do is that will allow me to boost the volume a little bit so that the soft parts of the vocal are where I want them to be volume wise. But the parts where I'm singing louder won't then become overpowering because the compressor kicks in once we hit that threshold that I set, and it will automatically, so the louder the volume gets, the more it will decrease the volume. So it's going to try to maintain that volume all the way through, and it makes the vocal track silky smooth. It makes it it really allows you to bring the vocal forward in the mix without having to worry about anything getting too loud or anything being too quiet. That's the entire thought process behind how any compressor works. That is the job that a compressor is designed to do. It compresses the volume. It allows the softer, quieter parts to be louder, and it makes the louder parts quieter. That's what any compressor does. But what's so cool is every compressor does it a little bit differently, and it does it with its own flavor. So that's why we use different compressors for different situations. And you'll see me use about 3 different compressors today. But this is the one that I normally use on vocals, except for my live broadcasts. I use an LA2A compressor, which you'll see that. On my live broadcasts, I like to use the LA2A because this one has the Fairchild. It has so many variables into it. It's really better for mixing. For live performance, the LA2A definitely has a leg up on this. But anyway, you'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, let's go ahead and play through this again.
Between the lines.
Okay, so I'm going to look at, because I can see where the loudest part is. I want to see how much it's compressing on the loudest part, because I don't want it to be getting too quiet.
And I'm tired of all this run around. I'm tired of all the hate. And I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. And I'm tired of empty promises of action you will take.
Yeah, that's fine. So we made it through the loudest part, and it never is compressing more than 5 decibels, which is perfect for a lead vocal. We'll compress the excite track a lot more. But for just the nice lead vocal, getting a compression value of about -5 decibels is right where you want to be. So let's go ahead and fit this back into the mix. So I'm going to unsolo it. Okay, so what I've done now is I'm muting all of the vocal tracks except the lead that we've got the compressor on right now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make sure that every word of that lead vocal is nicely intelligible, and that never at any point does it seem like the vocal is too quiet. Never at any point does it seem like it's too loud. If something is too quiet or something is too loud, we'll go back into the compressor and adjust it. So we're just going to be listening just to the lead vocal in balance with the backing track. I'm going to leave my compressor open here.
Well, come step down
Okay, so I know I want that to be louder. So I'm actually going to adjust the output screw on the compressor here. And that's going to give it a little bit of a volume boost.
Everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion of spite. Just one or two words of wisdom could turn on the light. But I will not forget the lies they told, and I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows?
So now, if we turn the compressor off,
what you can find between the lines, learn what really lies.
and back on.
I bet you will find.
It just adds a little bit of clarity.
Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war,
You can actually pull the volume down a little bit.
and it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door. When I could be the friend.
Okay, cool. So I think that sounds really good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the double track, and we're going to turn it into what I call the excite track. So I am going to put another 660 on here, and we're going to set it up the same way. I'm going to set the release to 2 on this one, so it releases a little bit faster. I'm going to bring the input attenuation down. I'm going to do exactly what I did with the other one to start out with. Except in the softest parts, we're going to look for about 3 decibels of squeeze on it. So we're really going to squeeze the hell out of this one.
Well, come step down from your rainbow. Well, come step down from your heights.
Oh, but I have it muted like an idiot. Let's try that again. All right.
Bring your poor eyes to focus on.
Okay.
Well, come step down from your rainbow. Well, come step down from your heights.
There we go.
Bring your poor eyes to focus on.
That may be a little
what
too
matters
much.
in life.
Okay, now we're going to bring the output up. What have I done? Why can't you hear it?
Everyone needs to stand up right now
There we go.
to this religion of spite. Just one or two words of wisdom could turn on the light. But I will not forget the lies they told. I will not regret as my life unfolds.
I'm going to compress it a little more even.
Who knows what the future holds till we can see.
Okay, I want, on the softest part, I want about 5 decibels of reduction.
Come step down from your rainbow. Come step down from your heights.
Yes.
Bring your poor eyes to focus.
Alright,
on
and let's boost the
what
volume a little.
matters in life.
Because when you compress, you have to compensate with more volume. Because, I mean, you actually are turning it down as you compress.
Everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion of spite.
Nice.
Just one or two words of wisdom
Beautiful.
could turn on the light.
Now let's listen to it get into a loud part.
I will not forget the lives made so whole. And I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go.
Yeah,
We're a country
man,
at war.
that vocal's so smooth now.
And it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door.
The volume's nice and even, but you can hear every word.
When I could be the friend you never had, or I could be the end to your days gone bad. No one will lend a helping hand until they can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life.
Yeah, Lord, that sounds great. Oh, I love this compressor on vocals.
And I'm tired of all this run around. I'm tired of all the hate. And I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to wait. And I'm tired of empty promises of action you will take. And I hope you will see.
Okay, I'm convinced that that's perfect. Now, if you want them to be even smoother, you can double compress them. So you can line another compressor in and basically do that whole process again. I'm not going to do that with these. I think the vocals are already plenty smooth. That just sounds really nice. And that's really a big part of getting that 60s style vocal, is this particular compressor. And just how smooth it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and compress the
Bring your poor eyes.
let's compress the harmonies too. Now harmonies on a song like this, I am just going to compress the heck out of both of them. I want them to be extremely, because you can see how much dynamic range there is in here. You can see, I mean, I've got this just so quiet, and then it gets so loud. So both of these, I'm just going to squeeze the heck out of them because they need it, because there's so much range between the highs and the lows. Huh. All right. So let's see here.
What matters in life? And everyone needs to stand up right now. To this religion is spite. Just one or two words of wisdom could turn on the light. And I will not forget the lives made till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies.
All right, so what we'll do here,
And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country country at war.
Alright, so what we're gonna do is oh boy. Okay.
And everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion of spite. Just one or two words of wisdom could turn on the
Alright,
light.
see ya, Dudu.
And I will not forget
Take your time.
the lives they told, the future holds, till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door. And I could be the friend you never had, or I could be the end to your days gone bad. But no one will lend a helping hand until they can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will
All right.
find
So I'm gonna copy that one and paste it to this.
And I'm tired of all this run around. I will not forget the lies they told. And I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds?
Hey, Jose Fiestas, how are you today? ¿Cómo está?
See what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door. And I could be the friend you never had, or I could be the end to your days gone bad. But no one will lend a helping hand until they can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find.
Alright, so let's go up and take a look at what I've got set for. We got hit chamber, Cartown chamber. Okay, let's go ahead and let's put a reverb. Traction plugins, auxiliary send. I'll send that to the echo chamber. Alright, so, and that's just going to be on the vocal bus.
Who knows what the future holds till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war. And it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door. When I could be the friend you never had, or I could be the end to your days gone bad.
Okay, I'm going to try something that may or may not be a horrible idea. I don't know if it'll even work. Let's go ahead and disable this plugin. Bring in my actual Abbey Road stereo chambers. This is pretty cool, but I don't know if it will work. I don't know if it'll work in this case, streaming off my CPU, because this thing is very CPU hungry. Yeah, there's no way that's going to work. That doesn't work at all. That doesn't work at all. That was terrifying. Oh my god. Okay. Let's just keep using this echo chamber. All right, so let's find a good reverb for these voices.
No one will lend a helping hand until they can see.
Let's go back to chambers and
see what you can find.
That's way too much.
Between
Cartown
the
chamber.
lines, learn what really lies behind the lies. Now I bet you will find a better life.
I love that Cartown chamber. It sounds so good.
And I'm tired of all this runaround. I'm tired of all the hate. And I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. Now I'm tired of empty promises of action you will take. Now I hope you will see.
Yeah, that sounds good.
See what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. I bet you will find a better life. See what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. I bet you will find a better life.
Oh, damn, that sounds good.
A better life.
Oh,
A better life. A better life. Between the lines.
holy moly, that sounds great. It really does. Those vocals sound so good now. I've compressed the heck out of them.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And I've got them running through my echo chamber now.
Oh, come step down from your rainbow. Oh, come step down from your heights.
Everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion of spite. Ooh. Yeah. Me likey. I think that sounds great. I think that is a great sounding vocal all around. It's glued together really well with the compressors. It just sounds very natural, very smooth, very good. It's exactly what I wanted. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We're heading in the right direction. Okay, so now we need to start giving some attention to the backing track. So what we're going to do there is the very first thing that I think I'm going to deal with is going to be Stratopillar. This guitar right here. So on this guitar, I'm going to put an LA2A compressor on it. A mono LA2A. Now this is probably my favorite compressor of all time. It's super simple. It's 2 knobs. Okay, so let's get back here. Alright, I'm basically just going to listen to this entire track and watch the compressor. They told, and I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds until we can see what you can find between the lines and what really lies behind the lies. I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings battlefront to your door. When I could be the friend you never had, or I could be the end of your days gone bad. No one will lend a helping hand till we can see what you can find between the lines and what really lies behind the lies. I bet you'll find a better life. Ooh. 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 I'm tired of all this runaround. I'm tired of all the hate. Tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. Tired of empty promises of action you will take. I hope you will see what you can find between the lines and what really lies behind the lies. And I bet you will find a better life. Ooh. To those of you just turning in, I'm not completely insane. I'm just mixing a song. Okay, so what we need to do is mix in context of everything else now. So
I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. Now I'm tired of empty promises of action you will take. And I hope you will see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. I bet you will find a better life. Oh, come step down from your rainbow. Oh, come step down from your heights. Bring your poor eyes to focus on what matters in life. Oh,
beautiful. Hell yeah. Man, that sounds good. Yeah. And just wait till we start to get some stereo separation. Okay, so... yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring the vocals back in.
I will not forget the lies they told. I will not regret as my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds? Till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies. I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these roads.
All right, let's go ahead and work on them drums now. So we're going to put this on the overall drums bus. And we're going to... yeah, we're going to use the 660, of course. Okay, and we're going to leave that set to 1. We're going to bring the input attenuation down, DC threshold down. Let's go ahead and start. Let's go ahead and start squeezing these drums. What am I doing?
It's this fine.
All right, so I want to adjust this so that the kick is getting about -3 decibels of gain reduction. Let's go to a place where the kick is a little bit more isolated. All right, let's hear it in the mix.
I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door. But I could be the friend you never had. Or I could be the end to your days gone bad. No one will lend a helping hand until they can see what you can find.
Yeah, maybe that's a little too much compression. Let's dial it back just a little bit.
Between the lines, learn what really lies. Behind the lines, I bet you
Hey, dude, welcome back. We're compressing the drums right now. Yeah. Alright, so I'm using the Fairchild 660 on here. I just compressed both guitars with an LA2A, so I don't know if you saw that or not, but I'll go back and I'll show that to you in a minute. The LA2A is my main compressor that I use most of the time, but working on the drums right now. So let's listen to them clean. I know this is probably a particular interest to you, so let me set it back the way it was and show you how I compress a drum kit. Alright, so this is with alright, so the compressor's on, but it's not doing anything. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, since I compress the entire drum bus together, which is, old school, I don't have individual mics on each drum, so I'm taking the entire kit as a single track, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the AC threshold on the compressor to give us about -3 decibels of compression on the kick drum when I'm really laying into it. So I'm going to find a place where the kick drum is kind of isolated and just kind of loop it back and forth. Oh yeah, but we got the vocals all nice and compressed together. They're silky smooth. They've got a nice reverb on them now. They're everything that I ever wanted them to be. Alright, here's a spot where we can hear the... Okay, you will be able to clearly hear this compressor at work here now. So let me turn it off again. Okay, so this is with the compressor off. I'm going to turn it back on now. So it's off now. I'm going to turn it back on. Hear how they're just a little bit more aggressive. And the volume of all of the pieces is closer. There's not as much volume dynamics in the drums. It has kind of, we call it a squashed sound. And again, that's very, very, very typical, especially of the Beatles sound in the mid-60s. They really squashed Ringo's drums. And this was the compressor that they used to do it. But it just gives a little bit of a click to the kick drum that wasn't there before. And it gives this kind of like a snappy sizzle to the snare as well. So if I turn it off, and back on, off, and that's a very nice natural drum sound right there. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you turn the compressor on, there's just a little bit of sizzle and snarl that it doesn't have otherwise, and it really helps it stand out in the mix.
can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. I bet you will find a better life. I'm tired of all this run around. I'm tired of all the hate. I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. I'm tired of empty promises of action you will take. I hope you will see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. I bet you will.
Yeah, you can even hear it better when it is sitting in the mix. When I turn that compressor off, the volume of the drums doesn't change, but we lose that drive from that kick drum. I mean, you can, when the compressor's on, you can really hear that kick drum slapping. You can hear it really good in that passage. I'll play it. You'll be able to tell when I turn the compressor back on. Hold on.
Tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. I'm tired of empty promises of action you will take.
Just hear it clicking.
I hope you will see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies
And if I turn it off again,
behind the lines. I bet you will find a better life.
back on. It just makes the drums sound huge. There's just nothing like it. There's nothing there's no compressor that makes that sound but a 660. That's a very very iconic sound, and I couldn't mix without it. So anyway, like I said, I put a CLA 2A on the drums. This is the compressor that I use most of the time. When you hear me referring to, I'm going to adjust my compressor, this is the one that I'm normally talking about. And this is an LA2A. This is, I think the LA2A came out in like 1958 or something like that, and they used it all through the 60s. They still use it today because of its simplicity and its just unmistakably smooth sound. It's got a wonderful gain knob over here that you can use to set your desired volume, and the higher you go with that, the more it cooks the tubes inside of this. Of course, this doesn't have real tubes; they're emulated tubes, but you can get just a nice warm sound out of this, and it's super smooth. It's not great for drums because the release time on it is quite slow, and on drums you want the release time to be just a little bit faster, because there's not as much time between beats, so you want the compressor to ramp up, do its thing really quickly, and then fall away really quickly. Well, the 660 is much better at that. The LA2A is more for guitars and vocals, something that's got more of a steady, persistent sound and volume, because the release of the compressor is so slow. But that's one of its features, that when you use it on the right thing, just makes it sound so darn good. So again, for live applications, like when I'm broadcasting to you guys most of the time, my voice is coming to you through the LA2A. Let me throw that on my voiceover channel. I actually don't have one on the voiceover channel right now, because I'm at a constant distance from the mic. I usually use it during my normal broadcasts to you guys, because my distance to the microphone varies quite a bit. So I use this to automatically adjust the volume. When I'm further away, it turns the volume up. When I'm closer, it turns the volume down. So let me demonstrate to you how the LA2A works. So, for example, I can do this with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move the mic on the boom like way away from me, so you can hear that I'm quite a ways from the mic now, right? So what I can do is let's go ahead and monitor the output here. So normally I want, in just my normal speaking voice, I want it to peak between -20 and -15 decibels. So I can use the gain knob on the LA2A to go ahead and actually turn that up, right? So that I'm right between the -20 and the -15 decibels right there. But now I've got the gain turned up so far that if I start to bring the mic back to where it was, to where my face was close to it, it's way too loud and you can hear it distorting like that. So what I can do is then I can dial in some peak reduction right here so I can get it back into that territory. So so now you can see that when I'm talking, my voice is coming at you, between -20 and -15 decibels with my mouth pretty much right up on it. So now what'll happen, and you can see how much it's compressing because you can see the needles jumping all the way over to the left. So now if I move the mic back to where it was before, you'll notice that there's less compression, because it's bringing the volume back up. So I'm talking at you, now the mic is basically on the other side of the room from me on this boom, but my volume is about the same. Of course, you could hear the room a little bit better now. You can hear the natural reverb from the room, but the volume of my voice isn't changing now, even though I'm bringing this, now it's right up next to my face again. So that's the compressor doing its job. Now you can see it's compressing a whole bunch again. But if I put it back over here, you can see it's not compressing nearly as much. So that's pretty frickin' neat, huh? That's what a compressor does. And now you can actually see it in action working. So that's the application that I use this for the most when I'm broadcasting to you guys. Of course, I don't need it right now, so I can go ahead and delete it. And you can see that my I hit the mic. So my volume is basically the same, but I'm able to use that compressor to dynamically adjust the volume while I'm moving around the room or whatever. So now you know about the LA2A compressor. But yeah, like when I'm doing Saturday Night Serenade or I'm just sitting playing my guitar or something like that, I have an LA2A on my voice and I have one on my guitar as well. So that when I'm at my normal speaking volume, it's not really compressing, but when I really start belting and singing, then the compressor kicks in and it brings the volume back down to an acceptable level. So anyway, the wonderful world of compressors. If you didn't know, now you know. And I just think they're the coolest devices ever. Okay, so we got this going. We're mixing a song. Forgot. Okay, now let's give this bass a kick in the pants. So now you're going to get to see my fetish compressor, which you asked me about before. This is another one that is made by Analog Obsessions. Okay, so what I'm going to do to dial the bass in, this is an extremely powerful compressor, folks. This is not for the faint of heart. This is this was the next stage in compressor evolution. This came out in, I think it was 1967 or 1968. The Beatles themselves didn't use this compressor a whole lot, but it has since become a very classic, iconic compressor because of how aggressive it is, and it actually adds a lot of distortion if you are not working sparingly with it. But on the bass, that's perfect. We want it to add a little bit of distortion and overdrive that helps the bass stand out in the mix. So I love to use this as my stage 1 compressor. I compress the bass in 2 stages. I run this FET compressor on it. It's actually called an 1176 compressor. And then on the back end of that, then I run an LA2A to smooth that out. So anyway, the first thing that I like to do on this is dial in so much compression that there's no way that we're going to hear the bass when we start playing it through there. So I'm going to dial the compression ratio up to 20. And I'm going to set the attack to as fast as it'll go. I'm going to set the release to as fast as it'll go. I'm going to bring the output way down for right now, and I'm going to bring the input basically all the way up. So we're going to squash the signal to the point that we can't hear it, and then we're going to start bringing the sound back in. We're not doing that with a fader this time, though. We're doing it with the compressor itself. So let's go ahead and run this through, and we're going to solo the bass. Okay, so we can see that needle is all the way over to the left. Like, I am not going to let you hear... I'm not going to let you hear any of this. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to bring the output up a little bit. We got to be very careful here, though. Okay, so we definitely can't hear it. So I need to roll the input off just a little bit. And we want to go till we can just start to hear the bass. So you can hear it. It's extremely quiet right now. That's where we want it. So what we're going to do is the first thing that we're going to do is, and make sure that you do not turn your headphones up at this point. I just want to warn you. Make sure that your headphones are at the level that they were at. It is meant to be almost inaudible at this point. And when there's going to be such a difference in volume that if you turn your headphones up, when I bring the volume back in, it will be extremely loud. So make sure you don't turn your headphones up here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start playing this again. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start rolling the attack off this knob right here. I'm going to start rolling that off as we're listening to the bass. And what we're listening for is for the attack to just catch my finger on the string. You'll be able to hear a click. You'll be able to hear like a little click, and that's it isolating the attack on the string. So I'm going to go ahead and play through, and you'll start to hear that click. And once we do that, that means that we have our attack settings set just right. It's usually right around in this area. There it is. So again, I don't know if you can hear it, but you can hear right at the beginning of a note, you can hear a little click of my finger on the string. That means that we've got the attack on the string isolated at this point. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the output way down, so that I don't destroy our ears. I'm also going to bring the input way back down. Actually, I'm going to turn it all the way off. And I'm going to bring the compression ratio back down to about 8 right now. Let's go ahead and bring the output back up a bit. Okay, so we're not going to hear a difference right now until I start bringing the input back up. And that's actually going to make it more quiet. It's backwards. So as I add more volume into the compressor, it's actually going to make it more quiet because it's going to start reducing the volume more. And we're looking for about 10 decibels of volume reduction here. And then we'll compensate with the output. Okay, so that's nice and clicky now. Okay, now you can hear it's a nasty garbled mess. Okay? And that's because that's because of the tube cooking in there, trying to release the compression almost as fast as it's coming on. So what we're going to do is we're going to start bringing the release back until we have just enough overdrive. We want a little bit of overdrive to stay on the bass because that's going to help it cut through the mix, but we don't want it this dirty. So we're going to start bringing the release back till the bass cleans up a little bit, but not all the way. Okay, let me run it back a little bit more here. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn the volume back up. That's still a little too hot, so let me pull the release back a little bit more again. Yeah, nice. Okay, so now let's hear it without the compressor on. Okay, so again, there's not really a volume difference, right? There's not really a volume difference, but what we're going to get is we're going to get more body. The bass is going to sound a little more defined, but rageful. And it's really accentuating that moment that my finger actually plucks the string. So let's go ahead and put it back in the mix without the compressor, and then we'll listen to it with the compressor back in. Okay, so let's turn the compressor on. Off. Back on. So yeah, so again, it doesn't really change the volume of the bass, but it changes the character of it, and it makes it just pop. So now what we're going to run on the back end of the 1176 compressor is we're going to run another instance of the LA2A compressor just to smooth it out. And we're going to run about... how much compression? Let's see how much we need. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere between 3 and 10. We'll see. So let's start dialing it in. So there's 3. So let me give it about an extra 3 decibels. Nice. Okay, this is really sounding good. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add to the master bus the Red 51 console, the stereo version of that. The Red 51 console. This was the Beatles' main recording console. They started using they started out with the 17, then they went to the 37. They ended up using the 51 by Rubber Soul or Revolver right in there. And this is a tube-driven console. Very simple compared to today's standards. but it's got a very, very classic analog sound. So this is what we're going to use to start dialing in and gluing the entire mix together. This is where we're going to kind of do like our gain balancing and just early mastering EQ. It only has 2 EQ knobs. So you'll notice this has got a left bank and it's got a right bank. That is for stereo. This is the left channel. This is the right channel. I've got them stereo linked though, so as I move one, the other will move with it, so we can keep it balanced on both sides, which is typically how you would run something like this. So anyway, so let's go ahead and start running this through, and we'll go ahead and get the gain set. So we're gonna watch the VU meter up here. Stands for volume units. And it's okay if the needle goes up into the red a little bit. We just don't want it to stay up there. So I'm going to bring the gain up a little bit.
Turn on the light. I will not forget the life they told. I will not regret if my life unfolds. Who knows what the future
Need a little more gain.
holds, till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the
Okay, I'm going to bring the master faders back down so that we're back at a more manageable volume.
could be the friend you never had. Or I could be the end to your days gone bad. No one will lend a hand.
And this thing has a beautiful bass lift on it. Listen to what happens when I turn this on, how much more bass we get.
See what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies.
It's not overpowering, but it just makes the bottom end so thick.
Bet you will find a better life. And I'm tired of all this run around. I'm tired of all the hate.
Maybe too thick.
I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. Now I'm tired of empty
Whoop.
promises of action you will take. And I hope you will
We give it a couple of decibels at about
see what you can find
on the high end of things.
between the lines. Learn what really lies.
Couple decibels on the low end.
And I bet you will find a better life.
Okay. Now let's start stereo panning. So I'm going to put Straterpillar and Dorothy over on other sides of the stereo spectrum.
Everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion is spite. Just one or two words of wisdom. Turn on the light. I will not forget the lies they told. I will not regret if my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds? Till we can see what you can find learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find.
Now, there's a dial on the red console here that I can use to switch between mono and stereo very quickly, so we can compare where we were to where we are now very quickly. So let's I'll switch back and forth between stereo and mono, and you can hear what a massive difference it makes. So that's a pretty good mix. That's a good mono mix. You can hear everything just fine, right? Sounds great, actually. But then we'll go into stereo.
What you can find between the lines. Learn what
Back to mono.
Behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves.
Back to stereo. And then another thing that's cool is you can switch this into left and right mode. So it'll take just what's on the left channel or just what's on the right channel and give it to you in both ears. So you can really listen really well and hear what's on each side of that mix. It's a beautiful tool. I love it so much. I'm going to do some stereo panning on the vocals really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and close this for right now. Let me save this. And let's work on the vocals here real quick. So I think what we'll do is I'll put the Excite track over in the left ear. Let's see what that sounds like.
Everyone needs to stand up right now.
Oh my God, I just about had a religious experience. Oh, that sounds so good.
Turn on the light.
It's still mostly in the middle, but that ultra compressed, I call it the Excite track. That ultra compressed second, that double track vocal, I've got that over in the left ear. It's not as it's not as loud as the one that's in the center, but it's over there, and you definitely feel it over on the left side. So I'm going to do the same thing with the double on the harmony, but I'm going to put it in the right ear, and that is going to give us amazing separation for the vocals. So listen to this.
Everyone needs to stand up right now. To this religion is spite. Just one or two words of wisdom. You turn on the light. I will not forget the lies they told. I will not regret. It's my life unfold.
Let's go back to mono.
Who knows what the future holds? Till we can see.
Again, it sounds okay.
See what you can find between the lines.
It's still a good track, but when we go into stereo,
Behind the lines, and I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marchers go. We're a country at war, and it's this fighting amongst ourselves.
so another thing that is great about using stereo and doing hard pan stereo like they did in the 60s. And I'm talking about, we're not doing any 25% or 50% pans. No, back in the 60s they couldn't do that. It's like if you want something in stereo, it has to be all the way on the left or all the way on the right. So that's what we're doing here. And what we're getting is we're leaving that rhythm section, the bass and the drums, we're leaving those centered. So because we've taken each one of those guitars that was in the center on top of the rhythm section and we've moved them out to the left and the right ears completely, they're not in the center anymore at all. So the rhythm section has complete and total room to breathe right in the center. Because there's nothing else there. There's just the bass and the drums. The drums are in stereo, of course, but, like the kick drum and the snare and the hi-hat, what's driving most of the beat is right down the center. So you've got a bunch of frequencies that are no longer competing with each other anymore because you've got them stereo spread.
That brings the battlefront to your door. Well, I could be the friend you never had. Or I could be the end to your days gone bad. No one will lend a helping hand until they can see what you can find.
Now, we don't even have reverb on the backing track yet. The only place that we have reverb right now is on the voices and whatever reverb that I recorded those guitars with via my Topanga Spring reverb. So let's get a little bit of ambiance on, and then I think we'll be done for today, and then we'll finish up mixing tomorrow, I think, or I don't know. Maybe we'll do something else tomorrow. I don't know. But so let's go ahead and put an auxiliary send to the echo chamber on this at the end of the chain. So this is just going to be a general ambiance output for the entire backing track together. I'm not doing individual reverb on any of the individual instruments. This is just going to be as if these instruments were all played in a room together at the same time, and we caught whatever natural reverb was in that room. So we'll start bringing... Let me turn the vocals off, and let's start bringing some reverb in. Yeah, listen to that. When I'm dialing in like room reverb for the whole backing track, the main thing that I'm listening to is the drums. That's where you're going to pick up most of the feeling of like the size of the room is by whatever sort of reverb you get off the crack of the drums, since they're such an abrupt sound. That's where you really can get a good feel for if you have too much or too little reverb, is by listening to how it changes the drums. So let's go ahead and play it again. I'm going to come back to the quieter part of the song.
2, 3, 4.
And rule of thumb for some people is put reverb on everything except the bass guitar. I don't agree with that. I want the bass to sit in the mix with everything like it was actually there in the room with everything else. I don't care about having a little bit of reverb on the bass. If it does start to make the bass guitar sound too muddy, well, we can always pull a copy of that track out and have that sit outside of the backing track mix, and then blend that in for more clarity if we need to. But again, I typically don't worry about that. I think it has a very real and live feeling to it if you leave the bass guitar mixed in with everything else with the reverb. I think it's a much nicer effect to my ear. You know, not everyone's the same.
What matters in life?
Good Lord.
Everyone needs to stand up right now to this religion's fight. Just one or two words of wisdom to turn on the light. I will not forget the lies they told. I will not regret if my life unfolds. Who knows what the future holds? Till we can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life. Look at all of these protest marches.
There it is in mono.
We're a country at war. And it's this fighting amongst ourselves that brings the battlefront to your door.
And glorious stereo.
But I could be the friend you never had. Or I could be the end to your days gone bad. No one will lend a helping hand till they can see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life.
This is just the left channel, but it's in both ears.
And I'm tired of all this run around. I'm tired
The right
of all
channel.
the hate. I'm tired of all this sitting down. There's no time left to waste. I'm tired of empty
And back to stereo.
of action you
Beautiful.
waste. And I hope you will see what you can find between the lines. Learn what really lies behind the lines. And I bet you will find a better life.
And using that left-right is really useful for someone like me that I'm from all the years of headphones and loud music and stuff like that. My left ear is not, it's like, I'm not deaf, but it's definitely, the hearing in my left ear is extremely degraded compared to my right ear. So it's really nice, you know, to go back and double check myself, you know, when I'm you know, listening to it in stereo and I'm just trying to pay attention to the left channel and when I've got over there. Well, I know that, you know, it might not be 100% accurate what I'm hearing. So it's really nice to be able to go and click this over to the left channel and have it in both of my ears. So I can really, really hear for sure what's over on that left side. So it's a very nice tool.
once you can find between the highs, learn what's really lies behind the highs. And I bet you will find a better life, a better life,
Oh, that vocal's so smooth.
a better life, a better life. Between the highs.
Yeah, buddy. That is exciting. Cool. Well, I think we'll leave it there for today. Oy. Yeah, I'm extremely happy with that. It's been so long since I've listened to this. I'm extremely proud of it. Anyway, so that's a little taste of audio engineering and mixing with Nick Strait, using my usual combination of plugins from Waves, Abbey Road Suite, and Analog Obsessions. Definitely anybody out there, if you are into mixing, and you want about the professional level quality plugins out there, a lot of cool stuff that you don't see other people making, check out Analog Obsessions. He gives away all his stuff for free, but of course, he's on Patreon. Please consider, sending a little love his way. He works hard. He works hard on all of these things for us, and doesn't really expect anything in return. He just loves old music, and he loves the old-fashioned equipment that it was recorded on, and he just makes extremely faithful digital reproductions of all of this analog equipment. So definitely check him out. Analog Obsessions. Just Google it, and it should bring you right up to his Patreon. So anyway, that's it for today. I'm glad that this worked out. It's unfortunate that I can't have it running like this all the time so that you guys can see my plugins as I'm working with them. It requires completely changing all of my settings in Streamlabs in order to be able to do this, to switch over to the other processor to run the broadcast off of. And we definitely ran into some problems. I can look at my my CPU monitor, and I can see that it is really really dragging. There's some plugins that I'm not going to be able to use if we're doing this, because my CPU just can't handle it. I guess I need a better computer. It's as good of an excuse as any, right? Anyway, ooh, you guys can probably hear my stomach growling. I think it's time for lunch, so I'm going to go get something to eat. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. This was fun. I love mixing. This is almost as fun for me as actually recording the music, is actually sitting and mixing it all together and fiddling with plugins and getting everything that we recorded to gel together properly so that it sounds as good as it possibly can. So anyway, all right. Well, I will see you guys tomorrow at the same time, and we'll kick it off and do something else fun. And then tomorrow night, of course, we have a Saturday Night Serenade where I'll sit and play my guitar by candlelight for everyone. So, all right, thanks for joining, Adudu. Hope you're well, my friend, and yeah, hope you enjoyed. So, all right, everybody, take it easy, get some sleep, get some rest, get something good to eat. Wherever you are in the world, do something fun and relaxing for your soul. So anyway, as always, wash your hands, wear your mask, We love you with all our hearts, and we want you to be around as long as you possibly can be, so please do. Take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and wish you all nothing but all the peace, love, happiness, and all the good things. Love you guys lots. See you next time.
Attention all you high-class social climbers, play your games. Meet the man that works the clock from 9 to 5 each day. Though you sign my paychecks, buddy, you ain't no mystic sage. Your signature ain't worth the ink you leave upon the page. But you will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're heading towards the morning. And you can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Whoa, 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 whoa. Looking down your nose at me, you think you're something else. You must think I'm the dog that drools each time you ring the bell. But I am not your servant of its most unholy kind. I am just a messenger here to free your minds. You will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side of life. Can't you see the warnings? We're headed towards the morning. You can't stop the sun that shines a brand new kind of light. Oh, 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 oh. One day soon the sun will rise upon this human race. We'll see all the beauty that surrounds us in this place. It's not from all the things you buy with money you have earned. It's how you treat the people with the love that you have learned. You will not ignore me, I'll meet you in the morning. I think it's time you had a look at the other side